Normally I get a little bit judgy about people who start businesses that are church adjacent.
Yes.
That I feel like are making money off the church.
Yes.
I have really weird mixed feelings about that normally.
Yes.
And normally I would be like, I don't know, but you know how I feel about getting rid of garments. Part of me is like, well, they're solving a problem.
So, I kind of honestly think it's brilliant.
I'm kind of not judgy on this one.
As the cold winds of winter sweep in, there's nothing like the warmth of a comforting cup to help you slow down and unwind. This is the season. Let Postum be your cozy companion. Made from roasted grains, Postum is caffeine-free and rich with a smooth roasted flavor. It's the perfect drink for those quiet, chilly mornings. Whether you're curled up with a good book, sharing a laugh with loved ones, or simply watching the snow fall outside, a cup of Postum is the moment you have been waiting for.
Hello, welcome to This Week in Mormons, the Sisters Edition, Twin Sister Edition, with your host Arianne Smith
and Tiffany Hales.
We're here, end of May.
Squeezing
it in.
I have been teasing this since the last episode that I recorded with David.
Yes, because we have to hear about your Mother's Day.
We have to talk Mother's Day because I could have talked Mother's Day with David, but you know.
It is a tradition.
It is a tradition that you and I always talk Mother's Day. Yes. So that's why I teased it.
Okay.
But before we get to Mother's Day, what's been going on in your life?
Oh, man. I lived a life in May.
Yeah, you have lived a life in May.
I feel like I've lived a couple lives in May.
You should sit down and just make a list of everything that happened in May.
May was just extra crazy this year. I think we talked about it last night because we both had graduates.
We did.
Your youngest, my oldest.
Yes.
We're happy to report they both graduated.
Yes, they did.
Mine actually also graduated from seminary, which was a real touch and go there.
Yeah, we recall that.
She made it. Did all those makeup pages.
Yes.
Isn't it funny? Okay, when you were in seminary, did you get grades? We got grades, like A, B, C, D grades.
I can't remember.
They don't do grades anymore.
If I got grades in seminary, but you have to realize this was the mid-'80s.
And I was in seminary in the mid-'90s.
So,
and
I think in the mid-'80s, they were just happy you showed up.
Right. Well, I think now they're also just happy you show up because they don't do grades. But if you fail to show up over a certain number of times, they do make you do makeup work.
Okay.
If you are going to graduate.
Now, see, I do not recall that at all. It also wasn't a requirement to get into a church school. Is it a requirement or is it just like it looks better?
I think it's a requirement, but I don't know. Maybe they've changed it.
I don't know.
So anyway, so obviously she chose not to go to BYU, so she doesn't need it to get into school.
Yes.
Which therefore the motivation greatly dropped. And so honestly, the last month it changed every day. I was like, oh, she's going to graduate. And then the next day I was like, oh, she's not. So literally the week of, I was like, girl, I need a yes or no, because if I show up
and they're not reading your name
to the stake center and it's not for you, I'm going to be real mad. Like she'll go no matter what because she'll go watch her friends.
Yes.
But like if you are not one of the ones, I got no reason to go.
Exactly. So, I don't love your friends.
Anyway, she whipped it out of her back pocket at the last minute.
Okay. So. Good for her.
She also whipped like actual graduation out of her back pocket. Not really, but kind of.
Yeah.
Like she just had skipped so much and we're like, girl, you got to go to school. And,
I know.
And finally the counselor called her in like 2 weeks before the end of school because she kept saying, Mom, they're not going to not let me graduate. I have a 4.0.
They don't care about your grades. They care about your butt sitting in a seat.
So finally the counselor called her in like 2 weeks before the end of school. And she's like, girl, you better be here every single day the next 2 weeks if you want to graduate. And that scared her silly. She started going to school again. I was like, thank you. Thank you. Teachers and counselors.
Okay.
Bless you.
Can you even imagine? I think most schools do it this way. When a new class comes in, whether it's freshman or sophomore, depending on if you go to a 4-year or 3-year high school, they assign a counselor and that counselor stays with that class every year until they graduate. Can you imagine by the time you get to the senior year and you're the counselor and in May you're having to haul all these students in going, let me just give you, we need to have a come to Jesus talk.
I know. I think that's their full-time job in May.
It probably is their managing senioritis is their full-time job.
Yeah, because I actually did meet the counselor like a week later for the first time in 4 years. Well, she was very nice because also my daughter gave her a pair of my earrings. That I had made special for the teacher earrings.
Yes, the teacher
There was a thing in our district. It was a scandal, a debacle.
We won't go there.
So I made some earrings for teachers.
Yes.
To buoy spirits.
Yes.
Anyways, she gave a pair of said earrings to the counselor the day after she got called in. I was like, is this a bribe? And she's like, no, Mom, I just really know she would love these. Anyway, well, apparently she did really love them.
Okay, because this was very controversial, and it could have gone either way,
right? Polarizing situation. Anyway, yes. Apparently she did love them. Found me to tell me thank you when I picked up graduation tickets, and I told her no, thank you for getting my child to school. And she said it is my job, and she said she was not the only one. I called in about half the senior class and had that talk.
It's exactly what I thought. So they probably understand this going in.
We love the counselors.
We do love the counselors. Thankless job.
Yes.
All right. Well, should we talk about my long-awaited Mother's Day tease?
Yes.
First of all, what did your ward do for Mother's Day?
Our ward, we were under new leadership because we had new Relief Society presidency, and I think they were also taking care of it before, similar to your Relief Society presidency. So we used to do a crumble cookie in a box every year. Here's your cookie.
Yes.
Enjoy.
Okay.
This year they had a lesson, half for half the class, and the second half of the class it was mingle, and they had a charcuterie board.
Oh, like meats, cheeses, little olives,
cheese, crackers, fruit.
Nice, nice. So
it was fun. I mean, I'm in primary, so I never get to see anyone. So it's always fun to mingle and talk.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, so as you know, because I was in a previous Relief Society presidency, and we took over Mother's Day.
Right, and you went all out.
We went all out.
You did like full-blown meals.
So for the last 3 years, what we had done is we had either done a breakfast or a brunch, depending on, what time it was. We had all the sisters go into the cultural hall. We had this lovely little, girly food for them. And then we just sat and talked for the hour.
So zero lesson?
Zero lesson.
I'm on board with that.
Zero lesson.
I will say I could have done without the lesson.
Yeah, because what our sisters want to do is they want to sit and visit and talk with each other. Okay.
Yeah.
Because if you recall before, we would go and have a lesson, and then the last 5 minutes, they'd bring us a man-sized piece of cheesecake. And that really wasn't working for me. So when I got that presidency, I was like, no. Oh, we are going to take control of this situation. So then I ended up in the new Relief Society presidency.
Okay.
And they thought that this was a fabulous idea and that we should carry this tradition on. So we had planned a lovely brunch. We were going to have avocado toast, very
fancy.
Anyway, so we plan out everything we're going to do. Christy, my Relief Society president, shows up, and she doesn't discuss this with the bishop or ward council or anything because we've just done this for the last 3 years.
Right.
It's kind of like it's precedent.
It's like standard.
Speaking legal terms. So several weeks before Mother's Day, she shows up at ward council, and of course they go around the table, and they hadn't gotten to her yet. And the elders quorum president pipes up, and he's like, "Oh, we got Mother's Day," and Christy's like, and he was like, no, it's going to be a surprise. We've got the whole thing planned out.
Oh, was she very nervous?
We were all very nervous. And this is a new elders quorum presidency. So apparently they didn't get the memo
that this is how it's done. Mind your business.
Mind your business. It's not your business.
Okay, so I'm dying.
Stay in your lane.
I'm dying to know, how did they do?
So
that's very brave of them.
So she tells me this, and I'm like, oh my. Now, there was one part of me that was super relieved, and there was another part of me that was super concerned. The part of me that was super relieved is the night before Mother's Day, we had a huge stake activity for the stake activities committee that my husband and I on for the youth, and we were in charge of the food. And I was looking at that and then thinking about the food for Mother's Day, and I'm like, I'm really not sure logistically how I'm going to do that, but I'll figure that out. So I was very relieved that I did not have to worry about that. I was also like, oh boy, this could go south. This could be fantastic. This could go south. So I chose to have a good attitude about this. And I'm like, it's a new elders quorum presidency. They're taking some initiative. They've planned several weeks in advance.
Give them a chance. Yeah, that's right. You're right. This was not like the week before.
This was not like the week before or even a couple of days before.
That alone is impressive.
Yes. So I'm like, okay, we're going to give them some props on that. So anyway, what they ended up doing was after sacrament meeting, we all went into the cultural hall. Okay. Like it was women, teenagers, primary, the men, everybody, the whole ward congregates into the cultural hall.
Okay.
And they proceed to play a video. So what the elders quorum had done, and again, this took a lot of effort. I'm giving them completely mad props. They had reached out to all the men and they said, we would like a little video message from your kids, whether it's little kids, adult kids, doesn't matter. And they gave them like a series of about 5 questions, and your kid could pick whichever question they wanted to answer. And then you sent all of the little videos into whoever was collecting them and they put them together collectively. Wow. And so this was so fantastic. So my husband did this. He sent a text message out to, and I did not know this was a surprise. They were like, keep this from the women.
Wow.
And so he sent out a text message to all 6 of my kids because they're all adults now. And so they all individually sent him little 10, 15 second little snippets back that got incorporated into the video. And so of course there's all the primary kids on there who were adorable. Tons of adult kids because we have, a good chunk of our ward are empty nesters and their kids are adults. And so fun to see the adult kids, some of which you knew, some of which you were like, whose kid is that? And you're trying to, put stuff together. It was seriously so sweet. So the video was probably, between 20 and 25 minutes
that was
long.
my next question is how long did it end up being?
So the video was between 20 and 25 minutes long. Okay. It was fantastic. They knocked it out of the park with the video.
That is impressive.
It is impressive.
I've never heard of that before, ever.
Now I have to tell you what happened after the video.
Oh, okay.
So after the video, they then say, okay, everybody goes to class. So the primary was supposed to go to class. The young men were supposed to go to their class. The young women were supposed to go to their class. And they're like, we have a treat for the sisters in the kitchen. Okay. So the sisters start to line up for their treat in the kitchen. Do you want to guess what they had?
I have no idea. Barbecue, meat? I don't know. That's all I can think of.
They had pie.
Oh, pie. Okay. Well, better than cheesecake?
Maybe, but I will say they did have sugar-free pie because we have some sisters who don't do sugar, so they at least had sugar-free pie. So we're going to get our pie, and what do? They start putting away all the chairs in the cultural hall, so there's no place for us to sit and eat our pie. So we are standing.
Wait, what about the Release Society room?
Well, I'm coming to that.
Oh, okay.
Because we're standing out in the hallway because you want to know who took over the Relief Society room?
Oh, who?
The young men helped themselves to pie and went and sat down in the Relief Society room.
Oh, no. Oh, dear. Did they go through the line before you or after you?
Well, I'm not really sure when they went through the line. All I know is we were sitting in the hall because they had taken control of the Relief Society room, sitting in our padded chairs eating our pie.
Oh, dear. Weren't they supposed to go back to class?
They were supposed to go back to class.
Where are their young men leaders?
I don't know.
Are they serving the pie?
Probably. Anyway.
I thought the elders quorum was supposed to be in charge of the pie.
So we recently had presidency meeting and we're now planning Father's Day. You know what my suggestion was?
What?
I think we should serve a lovely strawberry pecan salad.
Girly salad?
Girly salad.
Oh,
that seems on par with the pie.
That's
and
funny.
I guarantee you the young men won't be lining up for girly salad.
That is hilarious.
We're not going to do girly salad, but
you're not going to start a war.
We're not
Mother's Day, Father's Day war.
We're not going to start a Mother's Day, Father's Day war. But anyway, so yeah, there you go. There was Mother's Day in my ward.
That is so interesting.
Anyway, I knew you would like the recap on this.
I do like that. I new things I've never heard of happening before.
Yes. So anyway, yes, there you go.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Should we do some
stories?
news?
Okay, we're going to start with 2, not 1, but 2 stories this week from the New York Times.
Yes.
On garments.
They're on a streak.
So random, right? I mean,
they were on a streak for a long time about all the Mormon influencers and the hair and all of that.
True.
They've now moved on to our garments.
Now we're on a garment thing.
Okay.
So we're going to start with the first one. This came out this week, and it is about a company that has popped up in Utah. They are called Celestial Recycle.
Okay.
They have popped up in Utah to solve the problem that I have complained about on here more than once before.
Okay.
Of how to dispose of your garments.
Okay.
We all know, if you're a member who's been through the temple, you are supposed to properly dispose of your garments. It vexes me. This is why I hold on to mine for way too long. Apparently, this couple, their name is Ben and Allie Larson from Ogden, Utah, noticed that this was a thing.
This was a problem.
They found a bag of old garments in their basement that they had held on to for who knows how many years.
And they're like, what do we do?
The idea was inspired. I wish we could just give this to a company to take care of. And so they started a company.
Okay, so how does this company work? What do they do?
Completely fascinating. So they take your old garments.
Okay.
They send them to a place where they are shredded.
Okay.
Then they send them to the cement plant.
Is there like a clothing
where they
shredder?
are burned?
They must have bought a clothing shredder.
Well, they have a place they send them to be shredded. I don't think they personally do the shredding.
Okay.
But I think it's a local place.
Okay.
That shreds them.
Okay.
And then they take them to the cement plant where they are burned.
Wow.
So they have these big envelopes and they charge by the size.
Okay.
Like they have like a $18, a $20, and a $25 size.
Okay.
Like plastic envelope, like when you get an Amazon package.
Okay. Okay.
You can pack it full as you can get. You purchase that envelope, you can fill it up as full as you get.
No, does it come with postage on it? So you just mail it to them?
They have options. Like if you're local, you can drop it off at their house.
Okay.
But if you are going to have to pay for postage, that's extra.
Okay.
You have to pay extra for that.
Okay.
Obviously.
So they don't have drop-off locations, just their house.
I think that was the idea. They may have some drop-off locations in Utah.
Okay.
They might in Utah. Anyways. And then they run it out of their basement, like this sorting and delivering and all the things. And this is like their side gig. They both have like other jobs and this is their side gig.
How fascinating.
It is called Celestial Recycle. So the New York Times article was all about like how they've done this. And then what I also found interesting in the New York Times article, they talked about, religious, sacred religious articles, like similar to our garments in other religions.
Yes,
like,
we are not the only religion that has
they talked
sacred
about
clothing.
how like the Catholics have like certain procedures for disposing of those types of things. And some of the other religions they hit on like, this is a thing. And not just our religion, but other religions about properly doing
disposing.
This.
Yes.
So I thought that was interesting because that was just something I never thought about before. Anyways, so
I have so many thoughts. Go
this
on.
This is what interests me about this article. Normally I get a little bit judgy about people who start businesses that are church adjacent.
Yes.
That I feel like are making money off the church.
Yes.
I have really weird mixed feelings about that normally.
Yes.
And normally I would be like, I don't know, but you know how I feel about getting rid of garments. Part of me is like, well, they're solving a problem.
I kind of honestly think it's brilliant.
I'm kind of not judgy on this one.
I kind of think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I do have some thoughts in terms of, can you imagine like opening these bags stuffed with people's garments, and because your garments get your body odor, like their basement has to stink. Because I mean, even if they're clean, if they're
clean when they're that old,
they still have that body odor. So, do they wear a hazmat suit when they're opening these packages?
I don't know. It's very, very fascinating.
It is so fascinating. And how? Who do they know at the cement plant that lets them, throw them in the incinerator at the cement plant?
Yeah, why?
This is so fascinating to me.
The cement plant. I'm sure they have to pay them.
I'm sure they have to pay them too. And furthermore, how in the world did the New York Times ever pick up this idea?
That is a very good question. I have no idea.
Because I mean, I haven't seen this like marketed on Instagram.
Do they have a billboard off the freeway?
Let's look on Instagram. Let's see.
Or a website. We should have done this before.
We should have done this before.
A website.
Okay, tell me what their business is called. And
Celestial Recycle. Celestial Recycle. Okay, while you look. Okay. Are you seeing anything?
I am not seeing anything on Instagram. How old How old do you think these folks are? I mean, I got the idea that they were kind of maybe young.
No, I think they're empty nesters.
Oh, well, then they might not be on the Insta. Let me look on the web.
Yeah. So I don't know. Anyways, fascinating business idea. As far as I know, we have nothing like this in Idaho. Maybe somebody should jump on that. I might be your first customer.
Okay. Oh, they have a website.
They have a website.
They're not on the Insta, but they have a website.
Celestial Recycling.
Oh, look, their bags even have Celestial Recycling with a little sun.
Their bags are pearly white.
Wow. Okay.
So there you go.
Okay. This is fascinating.
Yeah.
I
really do wonder how the New York Times stumbled upon this.
This is so fascinating. Let's see our story. Let's see if they have like a picture. Lifelong, active, and eco-minded. Oh, they're young.
They're not empty nesters. They have little kids. I don't know why
young.
When I read the article, I assumed they were.
Yeah.
Okay.
Huh. Okay.
There you go.
Well, Allie and Ben, mad props.
Okay.
Mad props. I love your idea.
All right. Okay. Next article, New York Times also. This is an article about all of the buzz around our new women's garment tops,
which we have continuously talked about. This is about our third or fourth month in a row.
It's not dying. Now the New York Times is writing.
It's not dying. And I believe I said last month when I talked about it that this would probably be a continuous topic from you and I until we get our hands on them.
This is the hilarious thing. This is the title of the article. This is the pull to get you in.
Okay.
The sacred undergarment that has Mormon women buzzing. I want them now. I will get them at all costs, said one influencer based in Hawaii. Right when I read the headline, I was like, oh my gosh, it sounds like Veruca. I want them now.
Veruca Salt from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Oh, good gravy.
Anyway, the whole article was about the new garment top and how Mormon women, influencers and non-influencers, are scrambling to get them. They interviewed the one influencer you discussed when we talked about him a couple months ago, Andrea Fawcett, the one in Hawaii.
Oh no, that's not that. That's not
Is that not the one you
That's
talked
not
about?
the one I talked about.
Oh, this is a different one.
This is a different one.
I've seen her
yes.
online. She has been like trying them on and showing what you can wear with them. They talked about how people are, scrambling to get them. One person they interviewed said she would be willing to like buy a plane ticket to Japan to fly and get them. They were talking about how people are like hitting up relatives that live overseas and like trying to pay someone to give them to them. Anyways, it was very interesting. They just talked about how they give a little history on garments and why this is such a big deal for women in the church. And they also kind of related it back to like, is this a shift? Is a major shift in the church to like go a little more mainstream with fashion? Anyways, it was fascinating to read about.
Well, and just all the stuff that we've been talking about, just kind of the divisions.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I have touched the new tank top.
What?
Yes.
You know someone?
So when I showed up at my stake activity on the 10th of May, there's another couple that is part of the kind of the leadership team, the adults who are in charge of this stake activity. It was a very hot day and I showed up and she had a tank top on. And I know her well enough to know she's not just going to be wearing a tank top. I also know her husband does a lot of overseas traveling. And so I was like, she got the new garments. And before I even had a chance to ask her, she's like, I got the new garments.
She was so excited to tell you.
She was so thus ensued. So my husband's setting up all the food and we are just like, buzzing.
And you're just like, lift up your shirt. I want to feel that.
Yeah, pretty much just what I did. I was like, lift up your shirt. I need to check this out.
As you should. I probably would have done the same thing.
We're good enough friends. I can do that. There's not, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily do that with every person, but I know her well enough that I felt comfortable going, girl, I need to touch it.
Okay. So what's your take?
So
how's it feel?
It's, I heard it was a very thin material and it is a very thin material. It's also very stretchy, but it's not like, I think the Carinessa are so thick. I do not like the material on the Carinessa. They're so thick. It is stretchy like the Carinessa because it was very snug on her. But it was thin.
Okay.
And so I could see how it would be moisture wicking, and it wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't hold the moisture or the heat. It was really cool. I said, how do they feel? And she was raving about them. She said, oh my gosh. She said, I cannot believe the difference in not wearing sleeves. Like she was blown away. So her husband,
I bet
her husband had been over in Hong Kong. So she made him go into distribution and get her some. So he buys her some, and he sees the men's tank top, and he decides, I'm not going to get the men's tank top. He goes back to his hotel and he's like, yeah, I'm going to get I think he bought one of the men's tank top just to try it on. He goes back to his hotel. He tries the men's tank top, and he hightails it back to church distribution and gets more of the men's tank top. He was wearing the men's tank top, and he was raving about the men's tank top. He said, it's so great. And he wasn't wearing a tank top itself. He was wearing just a normal shirt with sleeves. But he said
it makes a difference in the
it
heat.
does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I feel honored to have touched the new
exciting.
garment.
Well, I have to tell you, when I listened, because I listened to your podcast earlier this month with David, right?
Yes.
And he was talking about all of his trips to Singapore. I was like, why is she not hitting him up for like just one pair? Just one pair.
Just a top. I don't even want the bottoms. I just want a top.
Are you good enough friends? If you're not going to hit him up for it, can I? He doesn't even know me.
Well, he does know you. He listens to us faithfully. I don't know. I have no idea how close he's going to be, or if a church distribution center is even in his wheelhouse. We'll see.
Well, anyways, I was just thinking, just an idea. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're all very anxious to get our hands on these, and the New York Times has picked up on that anxiousness.
Exactly.
They talked a lot about the influencers and just the buzz around it all. So that was an interesting read.
Yes. Okay. Our next interesting story comes to us from the Salt Lake Tribune, and none other than church reporter Peggy Fletcher Stack. So this is the headline. Why are so many people of faith, including Latter-day Saints, choosing cremation over burial? So this was a very interesting article. It starts with, it harkens back to 1997, talks about a woman named Bridget. She had a stillborn daughter, and she had chosen, she was living, I believe, in New York City, and she had chosen a very small little coffin for her daughter, and her daughter was going to be flown back to Utah to be buried between her great grandparents. And a social worker had suggested to her cremation, and she said, I found that repulsive. And then 15 years later, she had to confront cremation again because her husband was killed in a freak accident while cycling. She decided against it, and she buried him in an Arizona graveyard where they were living. She doesn't live there anymore. She said, I rarely visit it. He's not there. But now she's changed her mind, and she said, I have decided I want to be cremated. I want half of my ashes to be buried with Rob and the other half to be scattered from a mountaintop, eventually mixed with the ashes from her current husband. She got remarried. And so the article talks about how the attitudes towards cremation have changed. So in 2023, the cremation rate in America was 60.5%. It is forecasted to be up to 80% by 2045.
Wow.
That is huge. And I've seen that big
80%.
shift. 80%. Wow. And so anyway, it used to be, I mean, when we were growing up, and even, I mean, I know that this changed in the handbook probably within the last 10 years or so. I don't recall exactly when it changed. The church was very much no.
Yeah, it was in the handbook.
You be buried unless you live in a country where burial isn't possible. Right. You be buried. Well, the church has now changed the handbook, and it says the decision about burial versus cremation should be up to the families, urging members to follow the desires of the individual.
And I thought that was interesting. Until I read this article, I did not know they had changed that in the handbook. Did you know that?
I knew they had changed it in the handbook.
I mean, it's not something I'm regularly checking up
on. I'm
but
a little further down the biological road than you.
But we had an interesting discussion about this with my in-laws within the past year. One time we were with them sometime in the past year or two. My mother-in-law said, well, I really want to be cremated. And it was the first we had ever heard that.
She said she wanted to be cremated?
She's older generation, which I think is more rare. The article points out that like with the older generation, burial was very traditional. But she also is a convert to the church, and several of her family members have desired to be cremated who are not members, either have been cremated or have that desire. And a lot of it is for environmental purposes.
Mhm.
They're very environmentally
Mhm.
minded. And I think that those were her thoughts, were it would be better for the environment. And, but my father-in-law was surprised. He
That
like,
was my next question is, how did he respond?
This was the first time this came up. So
He hadn't, apparently they hadn't been having discussions.
I don't know what came from it. I'm sure they had further discussions, but we were all just like, really? We were surprised to hear her say that.
So did he make any comments other than, haven't heard that before?
Yeah, I think he was just kind of surprised, like, really?
Huh.
He kind of said, really? Like, so I'm sure they've discussed further since, but anyway, I do think that's interesting that the shift, and I could totally see the shift with environmental concerns and cost.
Oh
like
my
land
gosh.
is just so expensive.
Well, and the burial land, yes,
Yeah.
that's expensive. But what's even more expensive than that is the embalming,
Yes,
the casket, all of that.
all the
I mean,
things.
you are looking at a minimum of $10,000.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
it's crazy.
And I think $10,000 is probably on the less expensive end.
right.
I mean, it is just crazy. And so the article does say that, people in their 80s and 90s still tend to believe that cremation is going to make it harder for Jesus to resurrect their bodies, which is kind of funny.
It is funny. That doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense.
He can do anything.
But that truly was
right.
the thinking.
That's how it was taught.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I feel like that's how it was taught when we were kids.
Yes. And it says, while the next generation in their 60s and 70s kind of laugh and, roll their eyes at that. So have you ever had this discussion with your husband?
About what we personally want?
Yes.
No, we never have. We've always been focused on what his parents want. We've
Yes.
never, I guess we're getting old enough now. We probably should.
Well, Darren and I have had this discussion, not like a serious, we need to sit down and decide
Right.
this, just kind of a passing. And I remember at first he was like, oh, I don't want to be cremated. And his thinking has kind of changed on that because honestly, here's what I want.
What do you want?
So I would love, this assumes he dies before me. If he dies before me, I seriously want him cremated. And I want him in a jar, and I want him on my dresser in my bedroom. I want to be near him, and I want to talk to him.
Okay.
And I want to have communication with him.
It makes sense. You don't have to go to the cemetery.
I don't have to
feel
go to the cemetery.
close. I get it.
Again, I know that's just his mortal
Right.
remains. But in my mind, there is something comforting about having him in a jar on my
I get it.
on my dresser.
I'll allow it. So what does he want?
So I think he's,
He's open to that.
He's
Okay.
he's open to that idea. Although I can't remember if I told him I wanted to put him on a jar on my dresser. You need to revisit that.
He might want to pick it out.
As long as it's not girly, I don't think he really cares.
That's what I'm saying.
But honestly,
What do you want?
I would not mind being cremated either, because what I would like is then, like, after we're both gone, for our ashes to be intermixed together. And honestly, you know what I would like done with them? And I don't even know if this is possible, but I know why. I don't understand why it couldn't be. I would like to find out if we can be buried in the same plot that our mom and dad are in, because it's just ashes.
You're not taking up any more room.
I'm not taking up any more
Yeah.
room. It's just ashes in the plot, and I don't know if that's possible.
That's a good idea.
But I would really like to be together with Darren where our parents are.
That makes sense. I like
So-
that idea.
Anyway, again, kind of environmentally friendly.
Yes.
Not destroying
Low
more
cost
ground.
on the family. Like, I
Yeah.
have to say, the thought of my family spending $10,000
It's ridiculous.
or me having to set aside $10,000 for my family spend seems completely ridiculous.
It does.
Like, what a waste of money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Okay.
anyway, so those are my
now
thoughts
it's
on that.
publicly known. We know what Tiffany wants.
Exactly.
If you don't put it in writing, we'll pull up this recording someday.
And I have no idea if I were to pass away before Darren, if he would want me on the dresser, or he'd be like, it's kind of creepy. If that's the case, just put me with my parents.
Just send you to the cemetery
Send
early.
me to the cemetery early with my parents. I'm going to be hanging out with them on the other side anyway. So
That's funny.
might as well let me hang with them there. I think he'd be okay with that.
Okay, well, this will be my next date night discussion with my husband. I'll tell you that.
Exactly.
So-
What do you want? Anyway, I
Okay.
knew that article would spark a very interesting discussion.
Yes.
Okay. Our next article, I have called this one Staying Alive.
Okay.
This is a really, really fun story. So this actually happened several months ago, but the kid's now a senior in high school. And because it was actually over a year ago, but they just did another write-up on it recently. It was March 14th, 2024. There was a young man, 17 years old. His name was Grant Litchfield. And he went to a first aid training session. It was organized by the Spokane, Washington stake. That's where he lives. They learned about CPR. They learned about performing the Heimlich maneuver, how to stop bleeding. He was there and he said, yeah, in my head, I thought, well, I'm never using this, but whatever. I'll try and remember it. What are the odds I'm ever going to use this? 5 days later, he's at track practice for Lewis and Clark High School, and his coach collapses unexpectedly. He says, we rolled him over. His nose was bleeding because they thought that he broke it. He was unresponsive. So one of his teammates, who was a trained lifeguard, started CPR while another student called 911. When that teammate paused to communicate with the dispatcher, he took over and used the CPR techniques that he had learned. And so the teammates all started singing the Bee Gees, Staying Alive.
That's the song you're supposed to do.
Because that is the song you're supposed to
I've
come
also
to.
heard Baby Shark.
See, I don't know that one as well. Because I missed the Baby Shark era with my kids.
I would much rather sing Staying Alive.
Okay.
Just saying that.
I could totally do Staying Alive. Bee Gees, my era. Baby Shark, not so much. Anyway, they ended up saving the coach's life. When the paramedics arrived, they had the defibrillator. They were able to get the coach back, but they definitely said, you know, what Brother Litchfield did along with his teammate saved this coach's life. And now, he's graduating from high school. And when he was reflecting on the experience, this is what I really like that this kid who is now 18 said. He said, he emphasized the importance of readiness. God will give us lots of opportunities to help people, but we have to be ready and available to take advantage of those opportunities. I was like, how insightful for an 18-year-old kid to
very nice
to see that, because he is very is absolutely right. We get opportunities on a daily basis, but we have to be aware of those opportunities and prepared. So,
okay.
All right. Our next article is
this the yoga one?
This is the yoga one.
I didn't read this one, so you'll have to tell me all about it. But I thought the title was ridiculous.
Okay. Yes, the title is Members of the Latter-day Saints Turn to Yoga for Its Physical and Spiritual Benefits. Many members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints embrace yoga and other contemplative practices.
Oh, okay, that's not the title I thought. I thought the title was like, can they do both? And I was like, of course they could do both, you
exactly
sillies.
Exactly. So they talk about, down in Utah County, I think in the... in Spanish Fork, there is a Hindu temple in Spanish Fork. And apparently they offer up to a 90-minute session of yoga in the sanctuary of their temple. And there are a lot of members of the church who attend their yoga class.
I would totally go to that. In a Hindu temple, that would be a cool setting for
okay.
yoga.
Have you ever done yoga?
Yes, I love yoga.
See, I have never done yoga. I cannot get on the yoga.
Tell
me what you like about the yoga.
I have not done it regularly since pre-COVID because my favorite yoga teacher at the gym dropped her class during COVID. And I haven't been back just because she's my favorite. But I did it at least once a week. I tried to do it at least once a week leading up till then. And when I was pregnant, it is so good for your body. Like it is so
I have heard that.
Healing. Something about the stretching, the breathing. I for reals have had injuries healed from yoga.
Seriously.
I had a knee problem for a while. I swear yoga made it better. I had like a neck thing that yoga healed.
Well, I'm falling apart. I'm going to go find myself a yoga class.
You need to do yoga. It's just really, really good. And it's different. You have to get in the mindset. That's why I could only do it once a week. Because
and see, that's where I think I struggle with is I'm not sure I could get in the mindset to, my mind rapid fire missiles all day long.
Yes. And mine does.
And I don't know how I turn that off.
And mine does that during yoga. And my favorite teacher was never a very serious, like we must meditate. Like she played like, she would play like classic rock, but like slow versions of classic rock in her yoga. She wasn't super.
So like yacht rock in her class, in her yoga,
meditate.
Little yacht rock, maybe.
Oh, like a little Tom Petty, but like slow,
Okay.
like this Eric Clapton.
Okay.
Like, you know.
Okay.
So she was not like super, super serious. But then there's always a 5-minute meditation at the end. And that was always very relaxing. And 5 minutes is about my limit for like really like trying to quiet my brain.
Okay.
That's about my limit.
See, I think I could get on board with that. I don't know if I could get on board with the other stuff if I would just think this is just a little too on the kooky side for me.
Yeah, no, I think there are some that are kooky, but I think most are not super like kooky.
Okay. Anyway, so the article was very favorable, saying, yes, it is very compatible with the LDS lifestyle because we are all about our spirits and our bodies kind of being one and taking care of our bodies. And there's no contradiction with church theology, and anything that helps you meditate and brings you closer to the Savior is not a bad thing.
Right.
Which I completely agree with.
I know. It's funny. It's funny that they had to write an article to tell us that.
It is. It is. Okay. Salt Lake Temple. We are on board to open this puppy.
Ooh, what's the update?
In April 2027. So, you know how every, 90 days, 120 days, they give us an update. So they are now really readily working on the interior.
Okay.
Now, the fascinating picture that they released on their update this week is they are putting the oxen back in the baptismal fonts.
Are they using the same ones?
The one set is the same. I think there is a new set.
Oh, because they have multiple.
Yes, they have 2 different baptismal fonts. And so they're getting the oxen in. They're getting their baptismal fonts tiled. I think when I recorded with David, we were talking about some of the intricate painting that's going on in there. So the ceiling rooms are getting fitted with new doors and chandeliers. The circular stairways in the corner towers are undergoing varnish removal using laser technology. So anyway, they're spiffing her up.
They're moving along. How's the outside looking these days?
I think.
Have you seen any pictures?
I haven't seen it recently, but I had a colleague who went down there for a convention related to work. Probably, when did he go? March or so? I think it was Marchish he went. And he was staying right in downtown Salt Lake. And he's not a member. And I said, you need to go and see what they're doing to the temple. Just solely alone for the construction work and be fascinated by it. And he did. He walked over there and he saw the big pit and they still had all the scaffolding up and the whole 9 yards. And he came back and he was like, yeah, I could have sat and watched that all day long. That was fascinating. So
fun.
Anyway.
Okay, what's next?
Next, we have an article. Tad Walsh, he covers religion for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He picked up on, so he's always following different religious stories that come into his feed. And he picks up on this one that says new spiritual leaders on campus. And this was talking about more secular campuses, not BYU.
Okay.
And that students universities have secularized. And so college presidents and other leaders devote little time to spiritual life of their students, and they just hire chaplains to fill in the gap. So then he says, but not at BYU.
Right.
And so he decides to run the numbers on the BYU stakes. So BYU has 170 congregations with 18 stakes. But when you look at that area, it's not just BYU students, it's UVU students. And so when you look at everything in the Provo area, there are 22 Provo young single adult stakes is what they call them. There are 4 Provo married student stakes. There are 228 Provo YSA wards, and there are 37 Provo married student wards.
Wow.
So they need a lot of adult leadership to fill that, because they have to have, for each of those stakes, they are going to have a stake presidency. And then each ward is going to have a bishop and 2 counselors and then a Relief Society president. I thought they used to fill some of those with students, but I guess just with the turnover, they try and get adults in there to kind of.
Are they not using students anymore?
It doesn't appear from this
I
article.
thought that was pretty new in the past 5 years, that they were letting students be like counselors and bishoprics.
They were letting students be counselors and bishoprics, and it seems like forever they let students be elders quorum president or Relief Society president.
That was always happening, right?
I kind of gathered from this article that maybe it's not anymore. I don't know for sure, but it sounded to me like they were bringing adults in, which with the transient nature of students, you can kind of understand because, you get called as a Relief Society president. And even if you're there for the whole school year, you are going to have a massive transition at semester, regardless with students coming and going.
Right.
As a new Relief Society president, it takes you 6 months just to get your feet on the ground and understand what you're doing, just in time to get released in a student ward. So it kind of makes sense that maybe they have an adult in there and she calls maybe student leaders to help. I don't know.
It's amazing they have enough people to staff these.
I know. They said that you run those numbers and that's 746 spiritual guides to provide the church in the BYU ecosystem.
Wow.
That serves students living on campus and in the Provo and surrounding
I would like
communities.
to know where they all come from. I mean, I know they get a lot from right there, Provo, or
Yes.
Are there people coming down from Salt Lake too, do you
I
think?
don't know. I know they heavily tap into Utah County. Our cousin Ryan lives in Lehigh, and he served, I can't remember, I know he definitely served as a bishop. I can't remember if he served in a stake presidency or a high council as well, but he spent some time serving in the student ward. So I think they really try and pull from Utah County. I don't think they pull too much out of Salt Lake County, but
It just amazes me that they have the numbers to do
I know.
this and that their home family wards are not depleted.
well,
Or are they? Are they running on a skeleton crew?
there's a lot of momans down there. We are in a land where there
That's
are
true.
a lot of momans,
That's
but
true.
not nearly as many momans here
That's
as
true.
there are there. Like everybody who lives down there is moman.
That's true. It's hard to comprehend.
It is hard to comprehend. Okay,
Okay. What are we on now? Oh, we're back to me. Okay.
we're back to you.
This is an article that came out this week in Meridian Magazine about the new LDS hymn book, which we've talked about a lot. It just kind of summarizing what we've gotten so far. Since May of last year, we've gotten 7 new songs
Okay.
digitally through the app. The new hymn book is still on track to be released late in 2026.
Okay. It's
So
a horse race. The hymn book, the Salt Lake Temple opening.
we still got a full year.
It's probably taken about the same amount of time to do both.
Yes. So anyway, this article was just they interviewed several saints from around the country, different geographical places, to ask how their experience has been implementing these new hymns in their wards, in their primaries, relief societies, etc. Everybody is pretty excited about it. Everybody that they interviewed. There was somebody they interviewed who talked about how they would do a song every week in Relief Society for 5 to 10 minutes to try to teach them. I like that idea because I missed having music in Relief Society.
I like that idea too.
And then the most exciting part of this article was my brother-in-law got interviewed. And he was quoted. He lives in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
How did they find him? Do we have any idea?
I have no intel. All I know is he sent it on the family chat today. So
Okay.
I have no idea if he knows somebody who wrote the article or a friend of a friend or what.
Okay.
But he is the choir director up in Coeur d'Alene.
Okay.
In fact, I think he's I think he's the music coordinator for his ward.
Okay.
Anyway, so he talked about how he's implemented them in his ward. He started by having the choir sing them, and then they would have the congregation sing them also. And so he made a printed copy in a spiral bound book with a QR code to access the digital files. I thought that was fancy. Our ward, actually our stake has spiral.
Our stake does too. Yeah.
Probably everybody does by now. I know it took us all a while to do that. But so he said that he also provides a brief introduction to his ward when there are musical symbols that they may not understand.
That's fancy.
That is fancy. But helps him out with some of these new songs. So good for him.
Love it.
Shout out to my brother-in-law for teaching hymns, the new hymns.
What, if anything, is your ward doing to get people on board with the new hymns?
We just sing them once in a while. That's all. And it's not every week. I don't think we've made our way through all of them yet. I don't even think we've done very many of them twice yet. I would like to start hitting round 2
Yeah.
on some of them.
Yeah.
How about you guys? Have you made your way through all of them yet?
No, I don't think so. But one of the things my ward does is the ward choir will learn it. And then they will present it to the congregation.
Similar to what my brother-in-law
Which
was
then
doing.
when we sing it as a congregation, at least half the people in the congregation know the hymn.
Right.
And it's not completely unfamiliar to us.
Yeah.
So
that
I
sounds
think
like
that's a great way.
what my brother-in-law was doing up in Coeur d'Alene.
Yes.
So no, we've just kind of dived right in.
Okay.
Like we probably sing one, I don't know, every other week or so.
Yeah,
maybe.
that's probably about right.
So
all right. Should we move on to Mormons in the media? Because we have some Mormons in the media stories.
We have a little update on Lita, who was the bachelor contestant, who was a member of the church. We loved her.
Yes.
She represented us very well.
She repped well.
Us Weekly did an interview with her.
Weekly. What's going on since we last talked to you?
What's going on? They just talked about her season, talked about how she was frustrated by the bachelor who kind of, she thought he was going to propose to her. He didn't. He proposed to the other girl. So they talked about that, but then they kind of hit on her religion. They talked about being a member of the church, and she said that there are like lots of misconceptions about dating someone who's a member of the church. She said that like a lot of people think that her being on the show, she talked a lot about wanting a family, and she talked about how people attributed that to her being raised Mormon and a cultural, and does she really want that, or she's just been taught that that's what she's supposed to want. And she was kind of defending herself, saying, look, if I was subscribing to every stereotype of my church, I would have been married at age 20 and like
popped out 4 kids.
I'm not married yet, and like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then they asked her how she felt about some of her other reality stars that are out there, mainly the Housewives of Salt Lake City and the Secret Lives of Mormon Lives ladies. She was very well versed in them. Clearly, she watches her reality TV.
Good for her.
And she said that one thing she really appreciates about both of the people on those shows, all of the people on those shows, is that they just represent that there are a variety of people in our church. We come in all shapes and forms and ways and nuance, and she appreciated that. She also said that she was able to meet a couple of Jenners at Coachella.
Well, she met
Kendall. Oh, not Jenner. Kendall
Jenner
and a Bieber.
And Hailey Bieber.
She met them at Coachella. I guess when you get famous like this, you just get to go to Coachella and meet.
I guess so. And they came up to her because they were fans of The Bachelor.
And so she asked them for advice on like how to deal with like
the
negativity online. And she said they both said the same thing. Don't look at it, but obviously you'll see it, but don't look at it. So
easier said than done.
Yes. Anyway, it was an interesting update on the Tia.
Okay, so
and
last time I recorded, they were releasing the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
Yes.
I have not watched it. I am still working my way through Dallas, which I've mentioned for several months. There's 13 seasons of Dallas. It's taking a while.
Which is probably more wholesome.
Sadly, I agree. But what is your take?
I have watched them all. I did it for the people. Just kidding. I did it for myself. But
okay,
obviously I also.
Are you scarred for life?
No. Here's what I've decided. It's kind of like having a baby. Like while you're watching it, you're like, "Oh, this is so bad. Oh no. Oh no.
It's cringy.
Oh no, it's making me cringe." And then when it's over, you're like, "It wasn't that bad."
Oh gosh.
So, positives and negatives. There are things I really like similar to Latia. I like that we're seeing different perspectives. Yes. This season, there was just so much Mean Girl drama. I don't like that.
So way more Mean Girl drama than the first season.
Way more Mean Girl drama.
And I kind of thought it would go that way.
Yeah.
Because that's how they keep themselves relevant.
I still really like Taylor Frankie Paul, the main swinger. She ended up being one of my favorites from last season, and I didn't think I would like her, but there's just something likable about her. She screws up all the time. She knows she's a screw up. She's humble about it. She admits it. She's trying to be better. Yeah, like she's very humble. I find her to be very humble and trying to be better. Okay. So I still really liked her.
Well, and I really liked her after last season too.
Her parents came off awful in this season. For how great Latia's parents were with The Bachelor.
Yes.
Her parents were the worst example of parents you could have.
Well, they weren't that great last season.
They got worse.
They got worse?
They got worse.
Oh gosh.
So,
okay.
But yeah, it was an interesting watch, the girl drama. And it's hard because then you're like, well, now that they're famous and they're on this, they know they have to play that up to like be important. And
exactly.
Anyway.
All right. Well, I have no doubt I will get to it eventually. Okay. One last Mormon in the media story. So last summer, big Netflix hit was America's Sweethearts. And it was a whole Netflix documentary on the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders.
Yes.
Now,
it was so good.
It was so good. Now, the reason that we talked about it then is because the director of this documentary was none other than Greg Whitley. And he is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He's done several other documentaries. He did the cheer competition one that was also on Netflix. I believe he did New York Dolls, if I recall correctly. He's a really good documentary filmmaker, active member of the church. So Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders was so successful, they are doing season 2, which will be released on June 18th. In all likelihood, I'm probably going to watch that before I get to more Secret Lives of Mormon Housewives.
It'll be more wholesome.
Probably. Anyway, so this documentary follows the cheerleading selection of last summer. Mm-hmm. So last summer when we were all watching the documentary, that was from the previous summer. So all these girls who were trying out last summer really probably had no idea how big this Netflix documentary was going to be. So anyway, it was so successful. They are doing it again. And just to tease Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, they are currently getting ready for tryouts for this coming season that's coming right now. I do believe that there will be yet a third season of the documentary. I don't have confirmation of that for sure, but I have some tea on those Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. Oh, the tryouts, which I'm not at liberty to spill at the moment.
You can't name drop.
I cannot name drop at the moment, but perhaps when we record in a month, I will be able to spill my tea about what I know about the current tryouts related to members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
All right. Very
so
good.
That's my little hook that I'm going to get you. So come back next month, and hopefully I will be at liberty to discuss
updates.
I will have hopefully I'll have updates to be able to discuss. Mm-hmm. So okay, let's go to Mormons behaving badly. So I got 2 things in Mormons behaving badly. First of all, there was a gentleman who decided in April of 2021 to set fire to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Missouri. Apparently, he didn't get the memo that Missouri's no longer beefing with the Mormons. We're good. We got lots of Mormons who are moving there these days. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so he sets fire to this church. So he finally gets sentenced. He was sentenced to 9 years in prison and ordered to pay the church nearly $7 million for the building that he damaged.
Wow.
So apparently 2 days before this fire, his name is Christopher Scott Pritchard. He was beefing because 2 days before this fire, he threatened to assault the bishop and burn the church down.
Okay. Do we know what the deal was?
I didn't do a deep dive to find out what he was beefing about. As far as I know, he never assaulted the bishop. He just burned the church down.
Did he have beef with the church in general, or did he really not like that bishop?
It's an excellent question.
I would really like some more backstory.
That is an excellent question. My bad for not doing the research.
I don't know if it's out there.
I'm sure it probably is. I'm sure that there was probably a whole article on it back 4 years ago when he burned the church down, explaining what his beef was. But maybe we even covered it. Who knows?
We might have.
Okay. Last Mormon behaving badly. It is an update on my Lifetime Achievement Award winner, who is none other than Ammon Bundy. I have crowned him the Lifetime Achievement Award winner for Mormons behaving badly. Salt Lake Tribune did a 2-part series on him. It's about a month old. It came out on the 1st of May. right after you and I had just recorded in April. So it wasn't available for us in April. And I wanted to save it for you because, you know, we really love discussing Ammon Bundy together.
He's the gift that keeps on
He
giving.
is the gift that keeps on giving to Mormons behaving badly.
And he doesn't live in our state anymore.
Which is even better.
So we're quite happy.
So yes, you may recall he fled Idaho. He's down in Utah. He's out there hiding in plain sight. He says, I don't even have the location share off my phone because there's actually a warrant out for his arrest. It's a 200 in Idaho. But it does have an extradition tied to it. It's a $250,000 civil warrant because he didn't show up for a contempt hearing. So it's not a criminal warrant. It does say that he can be extradited, but nobody's really pushing it. The people in Idaho aren't pushing the Utah people to go track him down. The Utah people aren't like, hey, we found him, Idaho. Are you going to extradite him? So it's always a possibility, of course, but for whatever reason, he's just kind of laying low.
It's just like nobody wants to deal with him.
Yeah.
It's like the kid you don't know how to punish.
Exactly. So this article, the first part of the article, the first installment of this article kind of gives an Ammon Bundy life update. And the second installment, he goes ahead and talks about all his political views. I am not going to cover the second installment. I'm only going to cover the life update.
I only read the first one. I didn't read the second one.
If you want to go read the second one and about his political views, knock yourself out. Anyway, what's really interesting is he reported to the Salt Lake Tribune. He is back as a member in good standing of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He holds a temple recommend and enjoys attending the temple and Sunday services.
See,
his ward or congregation.
My husband and I read this, and we were kind of floored by that because I was like, really? Can you have a temple recommend if you have a warrant out for your arrest? I mean, I suppose it's not one of the questions.
Anyway.
But it seems like it would fall under one of the categories, yeah?
Exactly. So, he says this is a civil warrant rather than a criminal warrant. That's why he thinks they're really not interested in coming after him. And he talks about 2 different times that his membership has not been in good standing. So one of his arrests, I think it was the Malheur County arrest, and he spent some time in jail, and he came back from that. And let's see, where is it here? I thought I highlighted it. Anyway, so he came back from when he got released from jail. He came back, and they wouldn't give him his temple recommend. They made him wait it out for about 18 months. And the bishop at that point in time said, well, I just wanted to see what side of the fence you were on. And he didn't get to ordain his son and didn't get to participate in some baptisms and whatnot. So after 18 months, I believe there was a new stake president that no, that wasn't the one where there was a new stake president. His bishop decided to give it back after 18 months. So then he gets in his second legal tangle in Idaho, which was during COVID, and he shows up at the state house and he's told to leave. He refuses to leave. He gets multiple trespassing charges. And so his ecclesiastical leaders yank his temple recommend for his multiple trespassing charges. And he loses that again for about a year and a half. Then there is a new stake president. And so once he gets a new stake president, he goes to his new stake president and he says, hey, I'd really like to take the sacrament and baptize my son. Will you let me have my temple recommend back? And the stake president said, okay. Apparently he called Salt Lake and asked somebody at church headquarters what kind of standing Bundy was in. And it was reported, are you asking ecclesiastically or politically? And the stake president reportedly said, well, I'm a stake president, so I'm asking ecclesiastically. And she said, according to our records, Ammon Bundy has always been in good standing with the church. So, and I guess I should say, he wasn't ever excommunicated. He wasn't ever disfellowshipped. It was a situation where the previous 2 bishops or stake presidents had just yanked his recommend and said, we're not going to give you a recommend right now, and we're going to restrict you from doing a few things. So he's never been formally disciplined, just kind of informally disciplined. I thought that was very fascinating because when we've talked about him before, we have always wondered what is his standing
but also
with the church.
We do have to note that all all of this reporting on his standing in the church in this article is him.
Yeah, that's true.
So we don't know
have
what's
to take
true
him
and
at his
what's
word.
not true because he is a bit delusional at times.
That is very true.
So,
So he is asked in this article, again, this goes to his delusion. What about the article of faith that says, we believe in being subject to kings, presidents, rulers, magistrates, in obeying, honoring, and sustaining the law? Oh, he has a ready answer for that. Because clearly he has violated the law. He says, well, you only have to do that if you believe the law is constitutional. If the law is unconstitutional, you don't have to hold that up. The law being unconstitutional, according to Mr. Bundy, not according to judges, kings, and rulers.
right.
Anyway, so kind of a fascinating piece on our friend Ammon.
You know what we need? I was talking about this with my husband. We really need Dog the Bounty Hunter. Can the state of Idaho fit it in there? But no, not even the state, because it's a civil suit.
It is a civil suit.
St. Luke's,
It's St. Luke's.
the hospital. Please, we
Go
know
hire a dog.
We know you have funds. Bring us Dog. Let's round him up. That would be so fun, and let's record it.
It's gonna be a really
It'll
good
be like a special episode.
special episode.
Because I don't think he's doing his show anymore.
No, I don't think he's doing his show anymore. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I'm somewhat curious why they haven't chosen. They've got all of his financial assets. They've shut him down. They've really, put a crimp in his lifestyle. And so, and the result of which is he's had to remain relatively quiet. He cannot be outspoken and boisterous like he was before. And
they did get him to leave the state.
And they got him to leave the state.
There's no St. Luke's in Utah. So.
That's very true. They got him to leave the state. So I think it's one of those things that they're like, we're going to hold this over your head. And if you get out of line, maybe we'll execute on our warrants.
I don't know. So funny.
All right.
Okay.
Shall we do favorite things?
Yes, let's do favorite things. Okay, I'll go first.
Okay.
I've been racking my brain trying to think of something, and I may have already done this favorite thing in the past, but if so, I'm going to do it again because it's a new season.
Okay.
It's a show that I really like. It's called Poker Face. Have I talked about Poker Face?
No, I have
before?
never heard you talk about
Then
Poker Face.
Maybe I haven't done this one before.
Where do I find this show?
It's an NBC show.
Okay.
Peacock show. It is like a mystery, quirky mystery. It's this gal, and she's the cutest character. She's played by Natasha Lyonne.
Okay.
She has a total 70s retro vibe.
Oh, I'm going to love it already.
But it takes place modern
Okay.
day. But she is like in the wrong generation. She's a child. She's a 70s girl.
Okay.
70s vibe. She has this gift where she can tell when people are lying.
Oh.
Any lie, no lie gets past her. She can tell. And the hijinks and shenanigans that pursue because of this, she always ends up solving murders.
Oh.
She has some people after her because it's a highly sought after skill. So we watched season 1 and we loved it. And season 2 just came out this month. And we've started on season 2 and we still love it. And the fun thing about season 2 is because I think it's a more established show now, they are having a ton of cameos. So every episode is its own story.
Okay.
And wraps up that episode. She is the only.
So you can come in at any episode and.
Yeah. I mean, I would still start from the beginning so you get to know her.
Yeah.
But because of that, they have these cameos where for one episode, like, you know who is on? Katie Holmes. When is the last time you saw Katie Holmes do a show or a movie or anything?
I've seen her paparazzi pictures, but I've not seen her in the small screen or big screen.
Katie Holmes making a comeback.
Very cool.
She was on one. A lot of like comedians are making cameos. So it's been really fun this season to see all the cameos.
Okay. No, you have definitely not mentioned that before.
Very good show.
Okay, so mine is a new treat I made that is a healthy treat.
Ooh.
So I have seen this making the rounds on like Insta and Facebook, and I decided to try it last week.
Okay.
And it is delicious.
Ooh, what is it?
So I got plain Greek yogurt.
Okay.
Big old tub of plain Greek yogurt. I believe it was, if I recall correctly, I took 2 cups. Or did I take, no, I took 1 cup of the Greek yogurt.
Okay.
I put it in a bowl. I added a 1/2 cup of Fairlife milk. Okay. And then I added a Jello or a sugar-free pudding mix. And I mixed it all up, whipped it all up real good, and then just put it like in little individual snack size containers and put it in my fridge. And I get it out, and it is a yummy, creamy, delicious treat.
So it's like pudding.
It is like
but with
pudding
protein.
that is packed with protein.
Okay.
Tons of protein, yummy tasting. The first one I did was cheesecake, and I like the cheesecake, but as soon as I eat my cheesecake up, I'm headed for chocolate fudge, because I think the chocolate fudge is going to be really good.
Okay.
So I was wanting a treat because I crave sweets that I could go to that would be protein packed and not so bad for me as something like ice cream.
Okay, I'm going to try it.
So that is my recommendation.
Love it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up for us tonight. Arianne, thank you. This has been, it's always a blast when we get together and do this. It's therapeutic for us.
Yes.
So Twim Nation, we appreciate you listening to us and supporting This Week in Mormons. If you have any comments or questions, you can reach out at contact@thisweekinmormons.com. We always like to open our mailbag and read our viewer feedback. And you can find us on the Facebook. We've been so bad about updating our Insta, and I don't think anybody's watching the Twitter these days, but
Instagram's my job.
Facebook.
I'll get back to it.
Okay. Anyway, and if you really want to be a true supporter, you can always throw a couple bucks a month on the Patreon for us. Keep our lights on. So thank you very much.
Thanks for listening.